This is the C51, the first controller we ever made, but we have put it into a nice aluminum enclosure now. And this is the table model, so you can put it on a table, obviously. We also have it in a very shallow enclosure model if you want to build it into a rack or something. This is input select. So when you press any of these buttons, you select inputs for the preview. And these buttons correspond layout-wise to the thumbnails in the multi-viewer. So it should be rather easy for a user to select inputs intuitively because they correspond to this screen. And the way we have used this is to mount this panel just below the monitor in a rack in one of our use cases. So apart from selecting the inputs, you can also press the cut button. Obviously, this is what cut does. And there's an auto button as well. So you get an automatic transition based on whatever transition settings you have put into your ATEM switcher. And this is one of the points of this controller. It doesn't actually intend to give you access to all features. For instance, if you want to change to a wipe or if you want to have another transition time, you do all that stuff on the laptop. So runtime features, configuration. We have some other buttons over here. We have DSK1, which is simply enabling the downstream keyer 1. And in our case, we just have a station logo up there. We have a button called Auto. Yeah, I already mentioned that. And then we have Picture in Picture. The button in the corner here will simply bring up a small picture in picture, as you can see. This is generated by the digital video effects processor inside the ATEM switch. And the size, the ugly white border color we have right now, that's all stuff configured in the ATEM software. So you do configuration over here, you enable the particular feature there. But if you noticed, it also faded in. And that's not a default feature of the ATEM switcher. It cannot fade a DVE in, or in this case, an upstream keyer 1 in like that, unless you combine several steps. And in fact, when I push this button, you may not realize it from what happens on the screen, but it actually does 5 things sequentially. So effectively, this is a macro that it plays back. Then we have the VGA plus picture in picture. This button again is programmed to a very specific use case that we have. And we have normally a computer source on input 8. So what we want is by a single push of a button to go to input 8 and then enable picture in picture. And this is what happens when I press now VGA plus picture in picture. You see, go to input 8, enable picture in picture. And when I press it again, it will remember where I came from and it goes back from there. So this is essentially the C51 controller. You'll find much of this functionality duplicated into some of the larger models, so which of course expands with even more features. But the main point is that this tries to give you the most important runtime features for your production at your fingertips, while leaving all the control over to the ATEM software control panel.